Good evening. Today is Tuesday, January 16th, 2018. We are here for the Cabarrus County Board of Education Business Meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Our opening ceremony this evening will be presented by a combined unit of the Cabarrus County Schools Air Force Junior ROTC. Will you please rise?
Hold. Left. Ace. Present. Colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Carried. Colors. Post. Right. Ace. Forward. Arch.
So you may have noticed that was not the Patriots chorus singing the national anthem. They will be arriving around 6:30. First thing I'd like to do is just introduce who the cadets were tonight. We had Cadet Senior Airman Hannah Cooper from Central Cabarrus High School, Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Johnny Bauman from Mount Pleasant High School, Cadet Captain Seth Rogaseski from J.M. Robinson High School, and Cadet Staff Sergeant Vanessa Ruiz from Northwest Cabarrus High School. I certainly enjoyed seeing all the different colors of the TAMs tonight. I love seeing the teamwork that they show with this. The Air Force Junior ROTC instructors are Lieutenant Colonel Nelson English and Master Sergeant James Wurtzel from Central Cabarrus, Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Neal and Chief Master Sergeant Kevin McLaughlin from Mount Pleasant, Lieutenant Colonel Calvin Martin and Senior Master Sergeant Corrine Smith from Northwest Cabarrus, and Lieutenant Colonel Scott Rose and Master Sergeant Mickey Kistler from J.M. Robinson. Why don't we give them a round of applause for working together so nicely. So board members, before we set the agenda, I would like you to consider moving item 2.02, this Patriot STEM Elementary 4th and 5th grade chorus, down to approximately item 4.035, basically after the Impact Through Education Awards and just before the annual e-card design. I think that may be about the right timing. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda with that modification?
Second.
Okay. Is that Mr. Shoemaker made the motion?
No, Mr. Harrison made the
Harrison.
motion, and Dr.
Kirk.
Kirk.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I'd also like to thank Dr. Kirk for standing in with the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Pinch hitting there. Okay, the first thing I'd like to do is just recognize and thank, I'm not sure where our school resource officer is. She's in the back of the room. School resource officer Alicia Troutman from Harris Road Middle School is here tonight providing our security. Thank you for being here. So we'll start with recognitions.
Madam Chair, we
Oh,
need
sorry.
to complete setting the agenda. We voted on the movement,
I'm
but now
sorry.
we just need to
You're
finish
right.
that.
Carolyn usually keeps after me. I'll take a motion that the agenda as presented be approved.
So moved.
Okay, so Barry Shoemaker made the motion and Rob Walter seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we will move to Mrs. Glenda Jones, sorry.
Good evening, Board of Education. Tonight, we would like to recognize our cohort 4 for our teacher leaders, and I'd like to start by saying, according to author Elisa Cimarron, teacher leaders have the capacity to get others excited about teaching again. They have the capacity to spark passion and shape school culture in significant ways. During the fall of 2012, several CCS district leaders envisioned a program to extend the learning of teachers and allow the exploration of leadership options while still remaining in the school building. The group that we're going to recognize this evening is the 4th cohort of the Cabarrus County Schools Teacher Leaders Program. This group met for the first time in January of 2016 with a total of 53 teachers who accepted the challenge. Tonight, we end with 42 graduates. From this 4th cohort, we have 2 assistant principals and 1 principal fellow. In addition to these pursuits, all teacher leaders also collaborated with their principals to develop and take on leadership roles within their schools. Therefore, within this group, we have lead teachers, coaches, technology facilitators, lead mentors, and coordinators. Our goal for this program was to provide these teachers who were already busy and doing outstanding work in the classroom with professional development to help extend their skills to increase the capacity for leadership in their school and in our district. These teacher leaders now use their enhanced skills to have challenging conversations, make strategic and sound decisions, build leadership capacity in others, understand and explain the essential components of effective instructional and engagement practices, and teach their adult colleagues differently than they teach their students. One participant in this cohort said, "The program has helped me become a stronger leader in the classroom and at my school." Another said, "The great training sessions will allow me to more effectively facilitate meetings and have difficult conversations. It is evident that these teacher leaders now have the knowledge and leadership skills to extend their influence within and beyond the classroom." At this time, I'd like to thank all of our teacher leaders for their hard work, and I'm going to ask that our teacher leaders to stand as a group to be recognized, and then we will congratulate them. So please stand. As you can see, it's not all of them here tonight, but we have quite a few with us, and we just want to congratulate you again on the successful completion of this cohort 4, and we look forward to seeing you in our leadership pool as we go forward for administrators. Thank you again.
Yeah, Ms. Jones, I just wanted to comment that I really, I'll say, appreciate and enjoy the idea of growing leaders from within. I think that's so important, and I hope you all will stay with Cabarrus County Schools for a very long time. So.
We do too.
And now we'll move on to the next agenda item, 4.02, with the Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month. Mr. Tim Vaughn is here, Dr. Louder, and Mrs. Glenda Jones will present the award.
Good evening, Madam Chair and board members. It's always a pleasure to present our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month. Tonight is extra special because we get to welcome Mr. Tim Vaughn back. We've missed him for a few of our board meetings, and it's great to have you back with us again, Mr. Vaughn, and as always, we want to thank you for your generosity. Our Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month for January is Jennifer Riper. Mrs. Riper, would you, your family, and any members of your school's administrative team who are here tonight please come forward? Did I get right? Is it right? Right? Ripper. All right, Ms. Ripper. Thank you. And I actually practiced it and still got it wrong. Jennifer Ripper teaches career and technical education classes at Cox Mill High School. She was nominated for this award by 2 students who wrote, "Mrs. Ripper does her best work encouraging students to do their best work. She makes learning fun. The work we do in her class is both engaging and educational. The way she teaches really sticks because she applies it to our lives." Mrs. Ripper always has something interesting planned for us to learn, and the experiments we do help grow our understanding of the topics we are learning. Simply put, going to her class is one of the best parts of the day. Mrs. Ripper, congratulations on your selection as the Hilbish Ford Teacher of the Month, and thank you for educating, engaging, and encouraging your students. Please allow Dr. Louder and Mr. Vaughn to present you with your award, and then allow our board members to congratulate you.
Next, we'll welcome Mrs. Ronnie Boone to present the Impact Through Education Awards. The schools being honored tonight are Carl A. Furr Elementary and Hickory Ridge High School.
Good evening. We kick off the new year with our Impact Through Education Awards for students and staff at Carl A. Furr Elementary and Hickory Ridge High School, as you mentioned, Madam Chair. I also want to welcome Ms. Tina Platek and her students from J.M. Robinson High School, who are here again with us tonight to create a video feature about our Impact Award winners for our Channel 21. So we want to say thank you to them for coming out this evening, and look forward to their video project. At this time, I would like to invite any members of the Carl A. Furr Elementary School administrative team to come forward so they can stand with their students and staff. Stand right there on that black line for me. There you go. Great. Our first honoree from Carl A. Furr Elementary School is Jessica Duca. Would Jessica and her family please come forward? Jessica is a 5th grade honor roll student at Carl A. Furr Elementary School. She is a positive role model for all of her peers. Jessica is a self-motivated student and has a drive to be successful. Oh, you can stay. Parents, you can stay. Yeah, y'all can stay. Okay, and everybody come back together. Yeah. Jessica is a self-motivated student and has a drive to be successful. She has a love of learning, is aware of global issues, and possesses leadership qualities. Her teacher says, if she ever runs for President of the United States, she would receive my vote. Congratulations, Jessica. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Carly Furr Elementary School. Our next honoree for Carly Furr Elementary is Kevin Dubois. Would Kevin and his family please come forward? Kevin is also a fifth grade honor roll student at Carly Furr Elementary. He is known for being responsible and dependable. He's willing to take on new tasks. Kevin shows compassion to everyone. He's always willing to help a classmate. His teachers say he will be a great inventor and most definitely will impact the world in a positive way. Congratulations, Kevin. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Carly Furr Elementary School. Our next Furr honoree is Ms. Carolee Barber. Would Mrs. Barber and her family please come forward? Carolee Barber is new to the Furr family, but she's not new to the counseling role. She's been a school counselor in Cabarrus County Schools for 10 years. Currently, she serves as the counselor for students in 1st, 3rd, and 5th grades. She works closely with families to meet student needs, provides individual counseling sessions, works collaboratively with outside agencies and community groups, and supports classroom teachers to meet student needs. Mrs. Barber has made a big impact with her knowledge and expertise and is known for being positive each and every day. Congratulations, Mrs. Barber, and thank you for the difference that you make at Carly Furr Elementary School. And our final honoree this evening from Carly Furr Elementary School is Mrs. Ann Coates. Would Mrs. Coates and her family please come forward? Ann Coates wears many hats at Carl A. Furr Elementary School. Her official title is school treasurer. She is knowledgeable and professional in her role. But she also fills the roles of backup to the data manager and the school nurse. On any given day, she has been known to welcome a family to Furr and complete the necessary paperwork, run an attendance report, handle routine and medical emergencies in the nurse's absence, and submit the payroll. She is valued by all staff members for her ability to assist with any situation. Congratulations, Mrs. Coates, and thank you for making an impact through education at Carl A. Furr Elementary. Now we will move on to our Impact Through Education Award recognitions for Hickory Ridge High School. I'd like to invite any members of the Hickory Ridge High School administrative team to come forward at this time. Our first honoree from Hickory Ridge High School this evening is Brandon Romeo. Would Brandon and his family please come forward? Squish together so we can get a good picture. Brandon is a 12th grader at Hickory Ridge High School and is an extremely active member of his school community and beyond. He has been a member of student council since 10th grade, serving as junior class president, and currently serves as student body vice president. Brandon has also been involved in marching band since 8th grade and was chosen to be drum major for the fall 2017 season. Brandon is a positive, lively student in the halls of Hickory Ridge, but his impact extends farther. Brandon attained the rank of Eagle Scout in 2016 and has served in many leadership positions in his Boy Scout troop. He was inducted into the Order of the Arrow, the Honor Society of the Boy Scouts, in 2015, the motto of which Brandon embodies: brotherhood, cheerfulness, and service. His favorite part about giving back? Proving to his peers that service is cool. Congratulations, Brandon. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Hickory Ridge High School. Our next honoree from Hickory Ridge High School is Cameron Schlechte. Would Cameron and her family please come forward? Cameron is also a 12th grade student at Hickory Ridge High School. Throughout her 4 years there, she has combined her education and leadership qualities by contributing to the success of the school. During her junior year, Cameron became a part of the leadership class, which allowed her to plan many school events, including homecoming, prom, pep rallies, and Special Olympics. Cameron credits the leadership class with teaching her many essential life skills and encouraging her to put herself in a position to make a change. She strives to be an example for others. Congratulations, Cameron. You are an Impact Through Education Award winner for Hickory Ridge High School. Our next Hickory Ridge High School honoree is Mr. Frank Isley. Would Mr. Isley and his family please come forward? Frank Isley is in his 6th year of teaching at Hickory Ridge High School. Before coming to Hickory Ridge, he worked in the newspaper industry for 15 years. Frank began his teaching career in Guilford County, where he was named T.W. Andrews High School Rookie Teacher of the Year in 2004. His impact in education also earned him the Communities and Schools J.W. McGinn Award for service to students in the 2006-2007 school year, and the T.W. Andrews High School Teacher of the Year in 2008 and again in 2009. Frank has always gone above and beyond his role as teacher at Hickory Ridge. He has served on the secondary English curriculum writing team in Cabarrus County, as a PLC leader, and as a mentor facilitator at Hickory Ridge High School for the past 3 years. He has taught all 4 periods for multiple years in a row and has offered his planning period for students that need extra help and served as a cooperating teacher at Hickory Ridge. Co-workers have heard several students mention that he is their favorite teacher and never have heard any students say anything bad about him. He works fairly with students, always maintaining standards, making sure they are trying their best while keeping expectations high. He is an excellent example to other staff members and a positive role model to students. Congratulations, Mr. Isley, and thank you for making an impact through education at Hickory Ridge High School. And our final honoree this evening from Hickory Ridge High School is Mr. Gray Hoover. Would Mr. Hoover and his family please come forward? Gray Hoover was born and raised in a small town in eastern North Carolina. He graduated from the University of North Carolina with a biology degree. In 1995, he began his career with Cabarrus County Schools as a bus monitor and driver for EC Transportation before becoming an individual student assistant. Since 2008, Mr. Hoover has been employed as a classroom assistant at Hickory Ridge High School in the Learning Connections Centralized program. As an assistant in the Learning Connections classroom, Mr. Hoover helps students with high-functioning autism become successful by providing academic support in either small group or individual settings in all areas of the curriculum. He also collaborates with the classroom teacher in creating lesson plans, student projects, data collection, grading, and discipline. In addition, he supports students with issues that arise within the school environment and finds ways for them to appropriately handle a variety of situations. His contributions, however, aren't limited to the classroom and to the EC students. Mr. Hoover assists in a variety of ways at Hickory Ridge High School. You never hear him say no. whether it's driving an activity bus for field trips, choral concerts, or sporting events, assisting administration with school dismissal as a bus lot monitor, or supporting the custodial staff. Mr. Hoover is always there to help. And Mr. Hoover supports his students outside of the school environment by attending their sporting events and play performances, which provides him with the opportunity to further build his relationships with them beyond the classroom setting. Mr. Hoover serves the community as well as a youth leader and Sunday school teacher at Concord ARP Church. Thank you, Mr. Hoover, for making an impact through education at Hickory Ridge High School. Congratulations.
And now we'd like to welcome the Patriots STEM Elementary School 4th and 5th grade chorus. They are directed by Ms. Linda Palco and assisted by Julie Furr. And Mrs. Palco, when they're finished singing, if you would help them file around the podium, Mrs. Boone will help direct them to the mic to introduce themselves with their own name. Okay? And I'll ask our audience to please rise for the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Say your name. First name and last name. Yes.
Riley Huggins, Greta Renstrom, Ashley Botello, Kaylee Stedham, Kaylin Stanley, Casey Scolo, Avery Odessis, Sophia Corca, Layla Treadaway, Elizabeth Weatherford, Kaylee Ritchie, Madison Nicholson, Kyle Scolo, Anthony Smith,
Zion McWilliams.
Kennedy Morgan, Journey Powell, Michael Woods.
I thought they would do a much better recitation of their names than I would. And besides, they got to get on camera a few minutes longer. Okay, next we'll have our final recognition for the 7th Annual E-Card Design Contest winners. Welcome Dr. Chris Louder and Ms. Ronnie Boone to the podium.
For the past 7 years, our district has held a holiday card design contest, and over the years, that contest has evolved from simply designs on paper to digital designs. The winning designs are used as Dr. Louder's holiday greeting to colleagues, employees, and community members. And selecting the winners is never an easy task, as Dr. Louder can attest to, and as I'm sure you all know, we have some very talented artists here in Cabarrus County Schools. We are thrilled that our partners at Great Wolf Lodge were willing to provide our design contest winners with prizes once again this year. So please join me in thanking Ms. Angie Brown, who is the general manager of Great Wolf Lodge, for providing water park day passes for 4 to each of our winners. So that's not a small gift. So without any further ado, allow me to introduce you to these wonderful student artists. Our 2017 Holiday E-Card Design Contest winners are, students, when I call your names, please come forward, and Dr. Louder will present you with your certificate, and your certificate from Great Wolf Lodge is also inside that folder. Our first student is Ashton Baker from Carl A. Furr Elementary School. Ashton, are you here this evening? Okay. Oh, great. And stay up there so we can get a group picture of everybody, okay? Yes, they get those back, yes. Okay, so just stay there till we get everybody up here. Our next winner was Helen Sosa from Patriot STEM Elementary School. Our middle school winners were Ava Rakoff from Concord Middle School. And Autumn Thomas from Harris Road Middle School. Our high school winners were Alicia McKenzie from Northwest Cabarrus High School. And Akhilesh Shivaramakrishnan from Concord High School. And I know he was not going to be able to be here this evening, so. And if you can let all the board members shake your hands. Congratulations.
So now we'll move on to some of our business items. The first item on the agenda at 5.01 is the approval of minutes for the December 4th, 2017 work session and the December 11th, 2017 business meeting. Do I have a motion for the approval?
I'll move we approve the minutes as written.
I second that.
And that is moved to approve the minutes for December the 4th and December the 11th. Sorry.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No, one motion with Barry and Carolyn. Okay, I said any opposed, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's approved. Mike, I'm going to stop and think now, Barry.
No, I'm keeping up with her now.
Yeah. So next we'll have a report on the Wolf Meadow Elementary School. Welcome Dr. Crystal Hill and Mrs. Jennifer Brinson. Okay.
Thank you for inviting us to come tonight and share our progress and all the great things that are taking place at Wolf Meadow Elementary School. As of today, Wolf Meadow has 18 months of balanced calendar under our belt. And tonight, I'm excited to share with you some updates on our progress. You want me to start over?
You're fine.
Okay. In October of 2015, the Wolf Meadow community asked for the opportunity to utilize a balanced calendar to further meet the needs of our students. And during that presentation, we outlined a number of potential benefits that we believed would occur with this calendar change. We considered these to be potential benefits based on research from other schools and districts that had this option available to families, and also our own knowledge of our own school and students and community. Myself, along with some teachers and parent representatives, are here tonight and would like to update you in relation to those original potential benefits that we outlined. So making growth and progress during the school year and then sliding backwards over the long summer break has long been a barrier for many schools, many students, including some students at Wolf Meadow. This 2 steps forward and 1 step back each year is known as summer learning loss. And we are attempting to mitigate some of that summer learning loss with our balanced calendar. Our prediction was that if we modified the student breaks and spread them out around the calendar rather than concentrated in the long summer months, that we would see a decrease in this summer learning loss, and ultimately that would result in an increase in student achievement. So this chart shows summer learning loss on average for grade levels where there's a consistent metric to measure end of one year and beginning of the next year. So I looked at the reading level of students at the end of kindergarten, first, second, and third in our last 2 years of traditional calendar and calculated the average loss, percentage of students that were proficient and then lost that over the summer. And that on the last 2 years of our traditional calendar, we had a negative 14 for that, dropped of 14 points. On our first 2 years of returning from the shorter summer, returning in July, on our balanced calendar, we have decreased that, so decreased the summer learning loss to 9.5. So we're very proud of that. They know these kids. They're very special to them. The calendar for us follows as close as possible to a 9 weeks on and a 3 weeks off. And during these intersession breaks, many of our students have taken advantage of Camp Wolfgang. For many of these students, camp has become kind of an additional part of their identity. They see themselves as campers. They have a special handshake. They compete for the spirit wolf. They They have a camp theme song, and they get to interact with staff across the building as well as adults within the community that have come in to mentor during our camps. So we wanted to utilize our intersession camps. We knew that that would be a supplemental learning opportunities through that time. And so to date, every single student at Wolf Meadow who has signed up to participate in these supplemental learning opportunities has attended Camp Wolfgang free of charge. And every single staff member that has wanted to work during that time, we've been able to provide extra work for as well. And so you can see some of the experiences, some of the different camps that we've run. It's been, just everyone brings their talents on board, and we get to do all kinds of things with our students. Another potential benefit that we considered was building community partnerships. We consistently work to build these partnerships within our community with businesses, volunteer organizations. The intersession camps have provided additional opportunities for people in our community to come into the school and work with our students and bring their own skills and gifts to our students. So we considered the intersessions. We reached out to community members and organizations and asked for their help and support, and they responded positively. These organizations have either come on board as a result of our intersession camps or increased their participation with Wolf Meadow to include time mentoring and teaching our students as well. So often we find community stakeholders really want to be involved, but sometimes the traditional calendar doesn't allow downtime for them to actually mentor and work with our students. So we're able to provide that on this calendar that we have. We knew from research that teachers and staff who work on a balanced calendar are less stressed and have a lower rate of burnout. And it just kind of makes sense that when you strategically place time off during the year, that staff and teachers have time and space to reflect on their practice and then renew their energy. And one of the benefits of this calendar is that it works so well with teaching and learning, and then assessing and monitoring students' progress, and then being able to strategically place work days where teachers can analyze that data and make real-time decisions about what should come next for students. So we see that happening, and looking at our teacher working condition survey, I looked at the last year of us on a traditional calendar, and our teacher working condition survey, the morale in the school was already a very good place to work, and we had lots of positive responses to those. But you can see that they have increased in the first year of our balanced calendar. And then you can also see the staff morale and the teacher working condition survey as compared to the rest of Cabarrus County elementary schools. And we've been really excited about how we can work with the district to forward the PD that's in place there, but then tailor it in a real timely fashion to what our students need based on that data that we get back right away, and can do that work immediately with this calendar as it is. So the morale in the community at Wolf Meadow has always been very special. It's somewhere between long tradition and new energy. It's a special place to be. And we saw the balanced calendar as a way to open up that school to families outside the Wolf Meadow district by making the balanced calendar an open enrollment and part of the magnet program here in Cabarrus County. And so we've been able to do that by offering something unique and different. We can open enrollment to other families that want this choice for their students as well. The first year of our balanced calendar, we had, you can see the enrollment here. We had about the same number that opted out as opted in. Our enrollment has steadily increased. For the upcoming 18-19 school year, I currently have 17 students who have applied to come to Wolf Meadow who are outside our boundaries but want to opt in for the opportunity to be on a balanced calendar. Another benefit of the calendar that we predicted for Wolf Meadow was that there would be less instructional time spent reviewing content from the previous year or reviewing behavior expectations, and this did happen. Teachers at the beginning of the school year, when we come back in July, spend very little time and begin their new content within 2 or 3 days of returning. And another thing happened too that we hadn't really considered, how much time that we spend at the beginning almost of each unit kind of reviewing content from last year. So that was sort of a benefit that we didn't even anticipate, but we continue to see that our kids, even when they leave for break, when they return, they just kind of roll right back into school mode. And so we never really have to do a lot of reviewing of the past content. I have some comments from teachers here that just how they've seen that less time spent reviewing, how that has really impacted their work and what they're doing. And we also have seen something that we can't really explain yet, but not only have some of our younger students, our kindergartners in first grade, not only have they not lost ground, but they seem over the fall and winter break, we're starting to notice that they have gained ground when they come back, which I don't know that we can fully explain that yet, but it's a nice phenomenon. We're going to take it and kind of study it and see if we can replicate it in other places. But, you know, our first hypothesis is maybe that it has something to do with just that time to process. You know, when you get too much information at one time, it kind of falls off, but if you can get it in small chunks and then process it and then come back and learn more, that it just kind of sticks. That's our best guess to date. We don't know yet. It was a happy accident. So every benefit that we anticipated on this balanced calendar is beginning to show up. We only have 18 months of real data to think about right now, and I don't know that 18 months is enough to really say anything big, but we do know that student achievement is obviously our ultimate goal, and what we can say without a doubt right now that there are many factors that contribute to student achievement that we are seeing positive gains for. We have less summer learning loss, we have higher teacher satisfaction, we have greater opportunities for supplemental learning, and we have stronger community partnerships. And we believe that with all those, this will ultimately result in higher student achievement. So I'd also like to ask Ms. Graybeal and Ms. Colbreth to come up and kind of share with you their sort of experience as a teacher, their perspective from that point of view.
Good evening. We are two fifth grade teachers at Wolf Meadow, and we just wanted to take a minute this evening to talk to you a little bit about all the positive impacts the balanced calendar has had on us as classroom teachers.
So switching from the traditional to the balanced calendar, we have kind of noticed many positive changes, so we're just going to highlight a couple of those for you tonight. Like Ms. Brinson was saying, it saves us so much time throughout the year. This is my 4th year at Wolf Meadow, so I spent 2 years on the traditional calendar and 2 years now on the balanced. And I would spend 5 to 7 academic days at the beginning of the year reteaching routines and procedures, gathering new data because we would find that the data from the previous year wasn't current. And on this school year, I was able to start teaching on the 3rd day. So on day 3, I was into science, math, reading. And so we've noticed on that end, but also, as she was saying, I used to spend a lot of time in math reteaching 4th grade concepts, sometimes weeks. And now I'm able to, spend maybe a day, and they remember the measurement and the geometry that they got in 4th grade. So I'm spending a lot more time on 5th grade content. And so that's really benefiting our students. Another thing that we love about the balanced calendar is our built-in work days. So on the front end and the back end of our intersessions, we have work days. And we use that time in our PLCs to pre-plan units or look at our data and do things that we would have to spend time after school doing. So it really saves us time in the planning, and we really have the time that we need as teachers to dive into that data, look at where our students are. This is when we plan enrichments and remediations for all of our students. We are able to set goals for our students to start a new quarter. And on the traditional calendar, we felt like one work day really didn't give us the time that 2 or 3 or even 5 work days did give us. So coming back in this quarter, every student had a new goal. Every student knew what that goal was, and it was really, really helpful. So now in our PLCs after school, we're able to plan engaging lessons, we're able to look at, the data we take that week, and we're not feeling like we're constantly trying to catch up to do the best for our students. And then one other thing that I've noticed in the classroom is just how much happier the students are. They come back in the door, they're smiling, they tell us how much they miss us, how much they loved their break, but they're so happy to be at school, and it seems like they never left. However, you can tell from, how rested and relaxed they are that they did enjoy their break, but they're so happy to be back at Wolf Meadow, and they're so happy to get back into things, and they start new. So they have new goals, and what happened in the last quarter, positive or negative, it's a clean slate, academically or behaviorally. They know that this is your goal for this quarter, it's a new quarter, let's get started, let's hit the ground running.
So not only do we see positive impacts in our students, we also see huge benefits for ourselves in just our personal lives. So like Ms. Brinson was saying, one challenge that educators have today is teacher burnout. And that could be one of the reasons we're starting to see a shortage of teachers in North Carolina. I personally have experience with teacher burnout. After 4 years in the classroom, I decided to pursue another position outside of the classroom as a lead teacher. And I spent the next 4 years of my career outside of the classroom as a lead teacher, and I missed teaching students almost every single day. And at that point, I felt like I could not go back to that grind day in and day out, 180 days, until I came to Wolf Meadow last year. And when I experienced that balanced calendar outside of the classroom, I felt like I could finally return to what I really, really love doing, which is teaching students. And so now I'm back in the classroom as a 5th grade teacher and loving every single day. The balanced calendar also allows us to really take a break from school. So it has allowed me to visit family who don't live locally and still have time at the back end to just rest, relax, recharge before we return back to school for our students. I can honestly say that after 3 weeks, I feel completely ready to come back to school, which my husband always says he hopes that after 3 weeks, I am ready to go back to school. So I feel like that has really helped me too throughout the quarter, take less sick days and less personal days. I don't need that time because I know that I have the time coming up. And for those of us who do want to earn extra money in those intersessions, we always have the opportunity to work and run the camps, and that's a great opportunity that a lot of people take advantage of. And lastly, like the teacher working conditions survey, I mean, it doesn't lie. The teacher morale at Wolf Meadow is amazing. And I think if you were to come to Wolf Meadow at any point in the quarter, at the beginning of the quarter, the middle of the quarter, the end of the quarter, you would see teachers and students who are genuinely happy to be there. And I truly believe that the balanced calendar is a huge part of that.
So after 18 months on the balanced calendar and Kate and I really sitting down and kind of talking about the things that we wanted to share with you tonight, we think it really is evident from getting more instructional time with our students to just as teachers having more time to plan and just feel mentally prepared for school. We think that the balanced calendar is the best thing for Wolf Meadow and our students. Thank you.
I also asked two of my parents who have very different perspectives. One was all for it, and the other one was not all for it at the beginning. So I wanted you to hear from both perspectives there about what their experience is to date.
Hi there. Thanks for giving us the opportunity. I was all for it. Right now we have a 4th grade boy and a 1st grade girl in school at Wolf Meadow. 2 years ago, our son was in a really great Greek charter school in Matthews. We drove him all the way to Matthews for school from Concord. And then when the balanced calendar, we heard about that, we thought this is a great opportunity. It's a lot better of a calendar, balanced breaks. So we put them both in, my daughter and our son, put them in the lottery because we're out of district. We're Rocky River district. So we were very fortunate. Both kids got a spot, and they've done really well at Wolf Meadow. Our son, I can tell because we had a couple years, 3 years of traditional and now 2 years of, or almost 2 years of the balanced. He has much less burnout towards the end of the year, getting towards Christmas when a traditional calendar, they've been in school for so many months already with very little break. You get the Thanksgiving and Veterans Day in there, but there was a lot of frustrating mornings and dragging them out of bed and fussing and arguing over homework. But very rarely do we have a problem getting up and going back from breaks now, because they know a few more weeks, one more quarter, they get a really nice break. And then during summer, the traditional schedule, you have about 12 weeks of trying to find things to occupy your children. A lot of parents, we certainly can't afford it. Summer camps are very expensive, at least those that are engaging with your children. They just get really bored, and they lose a lot of what they learned during the school year. Our daughter came in to the balanced calendar in kindergarten, and she was definitely not at the same spot her brother was. He's the very smart AIG child, and she was struggling with basic stuff, even though we tried. So she came into kindergarten and picked right up, and then, the short summer break, she came right back into first grade this year. She didn't lose the amount of information that our son did for being out of school for 2 months when he transitions from kindergarten to first grade. So for us, it's been great. We were all for it. Like I said, we made a big decision for our family and moved them, to a different school from what he was used to. So we really appreciate the opportunity for the balanced calendar. We truly think it is a good thing for the students and for the parents. I also enjoy it. It affords us to be able to do vacations in off seasons, where it's a little more economical. We don't have to pull the kids out of school to take them on vacation. When it's easier for myself to get off work, not during the middle of the summer. It's easier in the fall. So it's just benefits all around from a parent perspective for us.
On my behalf, I was not for this calendar. I did not want my kids to go year-round, but I gave them the opportunity to choose if they wanted to opt out or stay at Wolf Meadow. My kids just want to stay at Wolf Meadow. They feel comfortable there. They're happy. I enjoy this year-round schooling now. I wouldn't want to change it. I'm hoping more schools do it, because I work on 2 different calendars. So in the long run, I'm hoping that more schools, like middle schools and high schools, can do year-round also. I'm very happy with it now. I wouldn't want to change it.
Our son that's in 4th grade, he's very disappointed with the thought of when he transitions to middle school, going back to a traditional calendar.
My kids have grown so much, not losing all that summer and going right back to school. So I'm happy with it.
Thank you very much.
You guys have any questions for me?
Board members, Dr. Kerr?
I'm good, ma'am. Thank you. Very informative and encouraging.
Good. Mr. Harrison?
Believe it or not, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Mr. Shoemaker?
I do have one question. It's really, we're getting ready to look at your calendar for 18-19, and you have an end of 9 weeks that ends in March, and then there's some time off, and then you have the springtime break.
Yeah.
Is your calendar set up like that this year?
No, it's not like the 18-19. So this current year, it looks very much more like a 9 on, 3 off, 9 on, 3 off, which is part of what the state law wants you to try to do with a balanced calendar. And it worked out nicely this year with the traditional spring break for the traditional calendar for Cabarrus County, and also where Easter kind of falls. In the 18-19 school year, it doesn't work out so beautifully. So it's not mathematically possible to do 9-3 all the way around and lined up with Cabarrus County's spring break and line up with winter break. So we had to make some adjustments there, and we thought, I started this calendar with a school committee that kind of came together and looked at it, and then we looked at other balanced calendars around the state to see how we could best coordinate, and then looked at Cabarrus County's traditional calendar so that we could align as many of those. And so that puts our kind of intersession break in March and has us coming back for a little bit and then taking the spring break with the rest of Cabarrus County. So this is the first year. 18-19 will be the first year that that's split up.
But your team has already looked at it and they feel very comfortable with this
Yes,
extra
we
break.
started with a calendar committee at our own school, with anyone at our school, staff or teachers that wanted to be a part of creating it. And we kind of started with our wildest dreams and then the state law. And then, and so then we didn't get our wildest dreams, but we got, the things that we thought would benefit our school and aligning it as closely to Cabarrus County traditional calendar as possible, and also meeting the state law requirements. And then from there, we took it to the district calendar team, and they looked over it and made some adjustments and improvements as well. So it's gone through two sets of eyes before it came to you guys for tonight.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate all that you guys have put out, and I can't imagine what it must be like to get your 180 days spread over an entire year.
It's a puzzle, yeah.
I bet you it's nice, so, but thank you. All right, that's all I have.
Mrs. Carpenter?
Well, I see you increased it every year, which is fantastic. The only thing with your teachers, did you seem to lose any teachers, or did your teachers all stay there?
When we changed to the balanced calendar?
Yeah.
We had two teachers who wanted to stay with the traditional calendar for their families. It just didn't work with their children on other schedules. So those two teachers stayed within Cabarrus County and transferred to two other Cabarrus County schools. And those are the only teachers that have left for calendar purposes. We've had some come in from CMS.
Well,
yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's wonderful. And so you did, after you got going, then nobody else abandoned ship?
No,
So
ma'am.
that's wonderful. So you were able to, and as you said, you had some other ones that liked it and came on with it. So, and the children just adapted very well to it. You didn't have...
They adapted very quickly, extra kind of adapted quicker than I guess we thought, after each break. We really anticipated shortening the summer break, that would be a quicker, that they would adapt to that, but I don't think we kind of thought about how quickly they would get back into the groove when they came back after each one of those intersessions. So that was kind of a surprise benefit that we found.
Well, I know there was a transportation issue we had. I can't remember exactly. Can someone refresh my memory on that?
This was a House of Transportation.
How's transportation going? How's transportation going?
I think you might be referring to the vote that you had in August or September of this past year, where we decided that beginning next school year in 18-19, we will not be giving parents an option to opt out of the Wolf Meadow calendar. They can get transportation. They can opt out and provide transportation to other traditional settings, but we will not be providing transportation. It was costing $200,000 to do so, and the board voted to pull that back.
And how's that going to affect? I mean, yeah,
Well,
we don't want to, it
when I
sounds
look
like
at-
it's working wonderful,
Right.
and we don't want to squash something
Yeah.
that's working good.
So in this school year, 17-18, I had 27 students that opted out. So there were 27 students that $200,000, I guess, was providing transportation for. But I had 20 students that opted in, so it didn't really adjust my enrollment. I guess the choice to not transport those children anymore would be because it's just not that many people and it's costing a great deal of money. So, I think there probably will be, those 27 children, may have to make an adjustment or come back to Wolf Meadow or find transportation, but, I don't know that it's enough that it would warrant that cost.
And that's the 27, you said, or the 20?
It was 27 in this school year that opted out and 20 that opted in. So they're providing their own transportation already, because to opt in, you have to provide your own transportation if you're outside of Wolf Meadow District.
Okay.
So it would just be the 27 that opted out that the transportation was paying for.
Mr. Powell?
Doesn't that include the 30 or so that were the year before
There
also?
There were, I called today to get that exact number. At the best of my memory, it's around 30. They didn't have the exact number, so it would be 30 for 16-17 and 27 for 17-18.
So the 200,000 is not just for 27 kids, it's for the additional 27.
Yeah.
We already have that same in place. We didn't double the budget because we doubled the kids. We just,
Correct.
we let them
Right,
ride on the
right.
same buses. Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else, Ms. Carpenter?
No, not at this time unless somebody asks a question that piques my interest. But thank you for the report and thank you
Sure.
for the job that you're doing.
Thank you.
And the teachers for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Mr. Walter?
No, I've been out and I visited, got the grand tour. I think they, y'all doing good things, and I'd like to see that continue.
Thank you.
Mr. Powell, I know you missed the presentation by the various speakers, but any questions?
Well, it was provided to us, so, so the total cost, I guess, of the program would be the 200,000 for transportation the first year, and then the current cost of 200, I think we were told it was a little bit more than 200 the second year, and that would be it, a little over 400,000.
The
Yeah,
only cost
additional
would be the
cost?
transportation, so I can't speak to that cost.
There are some additional costs with Kids Plus, but I will tell you that those costs are very low. I would say under $10,000.
Okay, Mr. Powell, I would encourage, we had several speakers from staff and from parents. You may want to catch the video and just hear their comments as well.
I saw them speaking when I was out at the front door, locked out, but
Oh.
I'm sure they did a wonderful job.
Well, I'd like to thank you all too, especially Ms. Brinson, the staff, parents, for coming and sharing your experiences with them. And as you all were talking, I was thinking the big difference may be in the students' excitement and whatnot for school is they start school 4 times a year. And if you could can that or bottle the energy in August, all of a sudden you've created that cycle 4 times where they're excited about coming back to something new because they are rested and whatnot. So, and I know I've mentioned to the board before, but I have several friends who had children that went through Shiloh Elementary in Union County, and they just love it. They're like despondent in middle school because they're not on the year-round calendar.
Yeah.
So any other questions? Okay, thank you all for coming and
Thank you.
sharing.
Thanks.
Okay, we'll move to the next item, and that's board chair comments. And board members, in the agenda was loaded, I think just Ms. Monroe put it out there this morning, and this is really not a big announcement or whatever, but to figure out the timing for submissions for naming of the new Southwest Elementary School on Hickory Ridge Road in Harrisburg. I put out these as proposed dates, thinking we would want about a 4-week submission period. Ms. Carpenter asked if we could possibly move it out to an April vote. I don't think Mr. Louder is here tonight. Ms. Reimer, when, does he have a requirement date?
I can check with him, but there's a big need for naming the school based on a lot of the architectural designs and colors and all the things that you guys do, and so we're getting very close to that
To get it on
deadline.
the documents.
But I can see if I can get him to answer, but he's very sick tonight, so.
Okay, thank you. So, board members, I included in there, I just copied in the policy 9300 for naming of facilities. You can review that. Whatever dates we decide on, we'll ask Ms. Boone to help facilitate having that posted on the website, both the policy and the form. So the proposal right now that I wrote up in here, that it would be posted starting next week on the 22nd. Submissions would be accepted from the 22nd through the 23rd of February. That would give a full 4 weeks. And then we would review the list, much like we did with the high school, at the work session, board members to narrow down your selections, assuming we get a large list again, and then a decision being made at the March 12th business meeting. We could potentially, you said you won't be at either March meeting?
No, and I mean, I won't be back until the 20th.
Okay.
And that's why I really would like to be there for the vote. That's why
Yeah.
I was saying, if we could make it the first meeting in April.
So we could potentially keep these same dates for the submission and then make an exception to the agenda for the first meeting on, we're not meeting on April 2nd, we're meeting on the 9th, I think, to get past spring break, to make the vote on April 9th. Does the board feel about that?
I personally would be supportive of maybe getting together a small committee to meet and discuss the naming of the elementary school. I think we have time. It wouldn't take very long to just put together a small group of interested people to come up with some ideas.
Well, I think we want to solicit from the public, though, and not limit to a committee.
Solicit from the public and also have a committee.
Board member thoughts?
And the purpose of the committee would be to do what, Mr.?
Quite honestly, just to be a little more creative than West Cabarrus.
Well, I do think, historically, some of the elementary schools, we have been naming after past superintendents and more historical figures, and I think there's a difference between an elementary and a high school when you're looking at the full involvement of a high school, all the athletic, academic contests and whatnot, and especially where they're having a mascot that is much more public, name is in the press a lot more. So when we did Fur and Boger and what else, we named several schools after past. What was the other one, Robert? No, A.T. Allen was before that. But when we did those two, we went after past educator or superintendent names. So, any interest in doing a committee, board members? I always worry about committees and what their purpose is versus what the board decides. So,
Well,
okay.
we got 70-something names before. And again, it's our decision on what, excuse me, we're given a month to get input, and we got 70-something names before, and basically, it is, the final decision rests in our hands. So I'm sure we're going to get plenty of names, so I really don't know what the point of a committee is going to be. I mean, if you want to do a committee, that's hunky-dory, but it's going to basically boil down to, it'll be our decision in the long run. And I'm sure within a month's time, we're going to get plenty of suggestions from the public.
Is there any objection to a board member filling out a form and submitting it?
No, anybody can. I mean, board members have done it in the
and
past.
you're
So anybody can come up with a
anybody
name
could fill out,
and
anybody
fill it so we
can.
Okay, so I'm not hearing much support for
So-
committee and leave it at the board's decision?
So we'll have the full period for public submittal of potential names, and then we'll go straight to a list for ourselves to consider, and then whittle it down as we did previously.
Yeah, I think, that seemed to work okay with the high school to whittle down. Everybody picked about 3, 4, whatever the number was.
Yeah.
We kind of had the chart of those names. And other names could still be brought up, but at least we had it narrowed down somewhat and the duplicates removed and that sort of thing. So, so board members, are you just, by consensus, are you okay with these dates? And then we would, what day are you leaving?
28th.
Okay, so you would have all the information and you could select.
Where are you going? Are you,
Off and on.
that you'll have some access to email.
Okay.
April
Well-
9th, what's still the date, April 9th?
Yeah, and I think we want Ms. Reimer to check with Mr. Louder.
So basically what I've got is that the architect would like to have the name decided prior to bidding the project in March. So if we could decide in March, that would give us the opportunity to have that before we bid.
Okay, yeah, the challenge is not having 7 votes. Okay, so what I'd suggest right now, and I'll work with Ms. Carpenter to try to figure this out, is that we post it on the website for January 22nd. The naming submissions will be accepted from the 22nd through February 23rd at 5 p.m. And then the board will review the full list, I'll say to be determined, and we'll work on those dates in the coming weeks. Okay, is that okay with everyone? Rob, here. Okay? Okay. Thank you all. That's all I have. Dr. Louder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by welcoming everyone back to school, and I hope everyone's winter break was relaxing and enjoyable. Our high school students are taking final exams this week. Today was day 2 of exams, and we're going to remind parents that high school students are dismissed early on exam days. The next announcement was about when the semester ended and when the work days would land, and with a pending weather situation that's going on right now, that could change. So I'm going to not point to days when it will end because I'm not sure that we know right now. However, we are monitoring that. There's kind of a weather system. We're going to see if it makes it over the mountain. So it certainly is possible that some people will get a 5 a.m. phone call tomorrow deciding what the weather looks like. It's supposed to come in about 2 or 3 this morning. I'm also excited to announce that our communication department will officially relaunch the Educational Access TV channel on Friday, January 19th. Cabarrus County Schools TV 21, which was formerly known as Channel 21, will be back on the air with new programming. So over the last 6 to 8 months, our communications department worked very closely with the county. So we want to say a thank you to the county for helping us get that channel back up and running. It's something that's been available on cable that we've now linked with the county, so we have access to that. The channel, which is on Spectrum, is where viewers can go watch recordings of Board of Education meetings as well as features about school and district events and activities. And again, say a special thanks, I think Ms. Boone said earlier, to Tina Playtech, who's a communications teacher at J.M. Robinson. She was here tonight with 4 of her students who kind of jumped in the deep end of the pool and started with our Impact Through Education, filming that and putting it on the channel. So we're very excited that we're able to do that, and people can then watch that and record it. And also, it's a way that we're going to try to expand and give our students the opportunity to actually film and then it show up on a TV channel. So it's very exciting, and we thanks to our communications department for working on that. It also is a very big task to operate a channel. So to be able to do that and vet everything for it, they're really working hard to make that work and still do their other jobs too. So we appreciate all the hard work that's gone into that. And again, to Ms. Playtech and her students for helping us launch that. I also want to say congratulations to our district spelling bee champion, Arja Day. She is a 5th grader at Cox Mill Elementary School and will represent our district in the Charlotte Observer Regional Bee in February. We wish her the best of luck. We had the spelling bee last week, and if you've never attended one of those, they are extremely stressful and a big pressure cooker to watch elementary and middle school students go through that. So there were school winners there that we want to congratulate, and then especially Arja as she moves on in that competition. And we also want to congratulate our teachers who earned their national board certification and those that renewed their certification. In Cabarrus County Schools, we have 265 national board certified teachers, and North Carolina leads the nation with 21,480 nationally certified teachers. So again, we want to thank you, Madam Chair, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Louder. We'll now move on to the guest speakers section. In accordance with Board Policy 2310, as revised by the Board on May 11, 2015, a part of each business meeting will be set aside for citizens to address the Board. Sign-up cards will be available for any individual or group to indicate their desire to address the Board. Speakers must hand a completed card to the Board Clerk no later than 6 p.m., the normal start time of the regular scheduled monthly business meeting. The Board Chair will decide the time devoted to public comments. Speakers must complete a contact information card, including their name, group name if applicable, address and phone number, and list the general education-related topic of the presentation for the Board minutes. We have 3 cards this evening, and we'll start with Wendy Harrison to speak on the SEP Road reassignment to Mount Pleasant. And you'll have 3 minutes, but you know the routine.
Good evening, board members. I've sent you guys some emails the last couple of weeks, but
I just want to speak about the reassignment for the South Party area to Mount Pleasant. I'm aware that most of the students that want to stay at Mount Pleasant are currently in their early elementary school years. I understand why their parents want them to stay at Mount Pleasant since most of them started there. That's completely understandable. However, I hope those parents and you understand why we want our middle and high school students to stay at Concord Middle and Concord High. Also, not all the parents in my area, especially those that have kids at Concord Middle and Concord High currently, are aware of this potential change. I spoke to 2 people this week and they had no idea. Hopefully a compromise can be made to help all students involved. Thank you for your time and consideration. Thank you. The next speaker is Carolyn Klein, also regarding the Mount Pleasant redistricting. Good evening.
Madam Chair.
Yeah. Why don't you press the button on the mic there? There you go.
Madam Chair, Dr. Louder, school board members. My name is Carolyn Klein, and I'm speaking this evening in favor of the permanent reassignment of the SAP and Irish Potato Road areas to Mount Pleasant Elementary, Mount Pleasant Middle, and Mount Pleasant High Schools. As our petitions have shown, it is the choice the vast majority of our community wants. The establishment of set feeder patterns for students to follow from kindergarten through 12th grade has always been a plus for Cabarrus County Schools. It demonstrates your commitment to community. Permanently keeping our area in the same feeder district will offer long-term stability for our students and their families. I ask you to support our area attending the Mount Pleasant schools. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. And the third speaker we have is Suzanne Rogers, also speaking regarding the redistricting to Mount Pleasant schools. Hello.
Hi, push what button? Oh, okay. First of all, I'll speak on behalf of my family and most of our community. And the first thing they wanted me to say and reminded me before I got up was to say thank you. We know you have a tremendous task, but we feel like you're listening and we feel like we're being heard. And that alone means a lot to us. We were elated to find out that we were going to be a part of the Mount Pleasant district, and mainly because that school reflects our community. We are a rural and a farming community. We have an idea that more than likely we'll be able to go there through 5th grade, but then you have 2 decisions or 2 things to look at tonight. One is to make the decision on the elementary school and put off the middle and high, or go ahead and send us to all of the Mount Pleasant schools. We ask you to strongly consider all of the Mount Pleasant schools, and this is why. When our kids get to middle and high school, the coursework, there's the agriculture classes that all of ours have participated in. In the past, when we were not considered a part of Mount Pleasant, my son had to drive to Mount Pleasant for the agriculture classes and then drive to Concord High to finish his day. Well, now the agriculture classes are extended to the middle school. So if you send us away from the Mount Pleasant schools, we'll be going away from what reflects our community. They won't be able to drive in the middle schools to get to the agriculture classes. In the high schools, we know that maybe we could ask and have our students drive there if needed, but we're on the right road here to being a part of a community school, and we would like to stay a part of the Mount Pleasant Elementary, Middle, and High. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Mrs. Rogers. Ms. Thomas? Mrs. Thomas? I don't know why I keep calling you Thomas. I have Glenda Thomas on the brain tonight. Mrs. Jones, will you please turn the mic off? She doesn't even know Glenda Thomas. But she was formerly with the school district. So I have that on the brain. I'll get over it. Okay. Thank you to the guest speakers. And now we'll move on to our consent agenda. Board members, we have the budget amendments presented last week. some policies on first reading and policies on second reading. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam Chair, so move.
Second.
So Dr. Kirk and Mr. Harrison. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Also, you did.
Any opposed?
You also had my 8 hours.
Oh, yes, and that did include, it's on the agenda. You forgot yours?
I emailed it to you.
To me? I don't think I have it, Rob. I will check. Huh? Oh, okay. Well, we can't, we'll have to put on the next agenda, I guess, right? Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, so just one more time. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Moving on to the action agenda. We have one policy Mr. Walter asked to have it put on the action agenda for tonight, and that was policy 7510 on the first reading regarding the leave revisions. So, Mr. Walter, do you have any questions?
There's just a couple. So there are a lot of additions and changes to this policy, and my understanding was that part of it all had to do with the North Carolina School Benefits Employment Policy Manual,
Yes, sir.
and that's why we made these changes?
Yes, sir. Well, the North Carolina School Board Association actually made the changes. They recommended that through their model policy. One of the things, the North Carolina Benefits Manual actually contains everything that we have with regards to leave. And what the School Board Association had been attempting to do was to keep the policy up to date to match what changes are made to the state benefits manual. And so when they sent the recommended policy this time, they said they were not going to continue to do that. They were just going to reference the North Carolina benefits manual. And so as you will see on the first page there, the link is to that, and then the policy is intended to be more general in nature and just refer employees back to the benefits manual.
Okay. And I had a question on the vacation leave on number E.
Yes, sir.
Prior, it said the superintendent or designee has the authority to approve the vacation schedules for all personnel. We've scratched that, and we've said vacation may only be taken upon the authorization of the employee's immediate supervisor in accordance with legal requirements and procedures.
So pretty much that just outlines the practice already in place.
So that is a practice that is already in place, not
Yes,
something,
sir.
we're not taking away responsibilities from the
No,
superintendent.
sir, the superintendent does not have the time to approve every teacher's leave
Sure,
or
but
every.
he can designate who
Right.
that would be.
Right, those are immediately under him, he approves. So
And
for
then the only
example-
other one that kind of raised an eye, we've got added something new, had to leave to teach at a charter school. Is that something we really want to promote in our policy, or is that something that we can just
Well, it's
throw down to other leave types?
Well, that's an actual, it's statutory just as the others are, and we're certainly open to that, but I think we just did promote it. Just by virtue of the fact that, part of that is we have to do it. We have to do it, but we could put that in the other leave category if the board so chooses, because it would reference it right straight back to the state benefits manual.
Okay, but to summarize, basically, we're trying to make it so it's easier for folks to see the changes, keep it current, and then to reflect current policy practice.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, board members, I'll take a motion to approve policy 7510 on the first reading. Mr. Harrison, Dr. Kirk, I see nodding over there. All in favor of approving policy 7510, regarding leave, be approved on the first reading? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. The next agenda item is regarding the approval of the 2018-19 balanced academic calendar for Wolf Meadow Elementary School.
Okay, so yes, you heard the presentation by Ms. Brinson earlier, and so now we're asking the board to vote on the calendar for the next school year.
Any comments? There's a motion to approve. Dr. Kirk?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll second that.
So Dr. Kirk made the motion. Mr. Shoemaker seconded it. Any discussion? Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that motion passes 6-1. I was on the count of the 6 vote. Thank you. Agenda item 9.03, the approval of the Mount Pleasant Elementary School temporary boundary changes. So board members, you have several documents here. I'd like you to first look at the option 1, option 2. Ms. Reimer's team helped to put this wording together. I just wanted to have it clearly where we could, I'm sorry, my mic was not on, where we could discuss. So option 1, you see it's the same road verbiage. The difference is this area would be assigned to the full Mount Pleasant Elementary, Middle, and High School feeder district. Option 2 is only reassigning the elementary age students. I will note, as I did the work session, that there are currently no Mount Pleasant Elementary students who do not go through the Mount Pleasant feeder district. So these would be the exceptions if we did option 2. But board members' discussion on which option you prefer, and then we'll walk through the other elements.
Do we have the number of students that are affected?
Yeah, it was 24 total for our high school seniors at this time. So 20.
What about middle school?
I didn't add them up from middle school in particular. Ms. Reimer, do you happen to have it in front of you? Okay. That was on the list you previously received with the
I was kind of
current.
confused on some of that listing. Hmm? We'll let our staff answer that.
So we sent several different charts, but a combined chart, middle school has, Concord Middle School has 15 students currently attending. There's a total of 20 that live in that area. 15 attend Concord Middle, 1 attends Winkler, 1 attends Jan Fries, 1 attends Mount Pleasant Middle, 1 attends Northwest Middle, and 1 is at our Opportunity School.
I think that, does that include the students on Old Salisbury Concord Road? And those are not in scope?
Yes, ma'am.
And those are not in scope for this?
Correct.
That's where I came to the 24 total, once I removed the out-of-scope area.
The old Salisbury Road is not old
So
Salisbury.
review it again. How many elementary school students are affected by this? They're already going to Mount Pleasant. That's correct. Is that correct? Yes?
Yes, I'd have to
So
look
they're already going to
up
Mount
that
Pleasant.
file.
So then how many middle school and then how many high school?
Give me just a second, let me find that chart.
Okay, I am going to find. So I just looked this up last night, now I can't find it.
It was on here January the 6th. There's one.
January 6th email.
I think I have a question.
Mr. Powell?
The east side of Old Salisbury Concord Road, I think was highlighted in our previous presentation, but now it's not.
It was.
Explain
Staff,
that.
Ms. Gomez contacted those families, and there seemed to be I'll say kind of an unwritten line where the people along Old Salisbury Concord Road wanted to stay at the Concord schools, and the people on Sap, Gregory, that part of Irish Potato, wanted to be at Mount Pleasant. So they did do a survey of the people who were not on any of the petitions, and that's why this was drawn the way it was.
St. Gregory was where they wanted.
Yeah, and Gregory's up above. Oh, actually, I guess Gregory isn't labeled, but it's off of here, off Irish Potato.
Did the Teakwood people, were they in Amber? Where'd that come in? And has it
Yeah, they're
always been-
included. They were included on the petitions.
And the Ashland Road, that
Yes,
was?
yes.
Okay.
So the way that is drawn now is based on the parent statements of preference, and the parents on the other streets were contacted as best they could reach them, but I think majority were contacted.
So out of about the 10 different charts, I finally found the one I think Mr. Walters is asking for. The group that is to the right in what Mr. Powell just described, we have to the right, yes.
Yeah, with the hash marks on
And
the
the
green.
green shaded, or the green shaded
Yes, sir.
hash on the map, okay.
We have 4 middle school students in that group total. Of those 4, 1, 2, 3, all 4 currently attending Concord Middle School.
So next year they'd have the option to continue at Concord Middle, or? if
That would be up
Yeah,
for
that
the-
would be based
that
if
would be
we
based on the
accept
board.
the criteria and one of the other attachments. They would have that option to continue.
Okay, and then high school, what do we have there?
So typically, what we do is, especially in this specific area, and Ms. Burton, again, this would be a board decision, not directed by staff, but we do have transportation up there already. We would allow transportation for the remainder of their level. When they finish that level, then they would be able to ask for a transfer into Concord High School, but would have to provide their own transportation if you were to redistrict that group permanently to Mount Pleasant Middle and High.
Is there any way that they could ask for, I mean, you're saying that, but is there a way, since we've got transportation up there, that they could do ask for a transfer, or see if they could drop them off at a hub or something? There's a couple of them that, I mean, we're accommodating these other parents with this, and there's a couple of them that's just getting caught up in this, that they didn't ask for this, and they're kind of in the same type situation, and they're wanting theirs to stay at Concord, and they've just got caught in the backdraft of this. I mean, basically, there's 2 of them, and they're wanting theirs to stay at Concord, and we've got buses that's going to Concord. And what can we do with them?
Well, Carolyn?
Why jeopardize them?
Yeah, I would say just historically, we have done what's in, I'll say, the governing principles or elements that I wrote up with Ms. Reimer's help. So the parent can always file the hardship, explaining their transportation situation and whatnot. And I know Mr. Harrison likes to say to not commit future boards. So we try not to commit future boards too far because bus routes can change. We're going to have another redistricting, although it's highly unlikely this area per staff is going to be touched in the redistricting for next year. But the parent can always file the hardship paperwork, and based on what they present, they can stay at the Concord schools. So, and I think staff would be more than willing to work with them in order to accommodate, what appears to be the majority of this area. So we can't commit today if we follow the regular guidelines, because I would hate to see us do different guidelines for each redistricting, where what's there is, I hope you all had a chance to read those because it's posted in board docs, but I think it's pretty much what has been done over time. So just to keep it consistent.
Can we read that?
Yes, I will. Do you want me to go through that now? Okay. So in the governing elements, I don't know who's presenting, if you can put up the attachment that says RES to MP reassignment governing elements. The reassignment is effective starting with the 2018-19 school year, which means that would be the first school year and going into the future. This reassignment does not affect existing program choice assignments, meaning if those families have already entered into a program choice lottery or have a child at an existing program choice school, this change does not affect those decisions. Students in the redistricting area may return to Royal Oaks or stay at Concord Middle or Concord High School with the following criteria. Transportation will be provided by Cabarrus County Schools buses to the schools listed on number 3, meaning right above there, until the end of the current elementary school, middle school, or high school attendance, respectively. So at each of those end of grade levels. When a student progresses to the next school level, if the student desires to stay at an out-of-district school, the family will be responsible to provide transportation. The family must file a hardship request with Cabarrus County School Student Services each year that they request to be at the original and now out-of-district school. These requests will document the intention of the student's family and will be automatically approved. And I guess we should qualify on that. They'll be automatically approved to the end of that current grade level. Each year, yes, because those are for each year. And that's not much different really than the program choice option, where you're filing a paperwork each year of your intent to stay at program choice. You're filing your intent to stay at the school before this reassignment activity. These governing elements are for currently enrolled students only. An unenrolled sibling who enrolls in Cabarrus County Schools will have out-of-district transportation only while the currently enrolled sibling is at the same school. So meaning if parents have opted to send one or two or more, whatever, of their children to other schools, they don't inherit the rights of the currently enrolled student. And I don't know if there's any situations like that in this area, but just to be clear. And any students moving into this area will attend the assigned schools if we vote on that and approve that tonight. So does that make sense? Any questions? For me, it was just writing down what has been historically done, but just so it can be read and absorbed by all.
So you're going to transport them until they get to the next level.
Yeah, and I think that's...
So at some point, you're going to have one or two kids on a bus, is that right?
Well, it'll be other schools. I'm sorry, believe it will be other buses in the area for that same school.
Yeah, and I'm going to speak a little bit for transportation. We have a bus from Concord Middle that's already up there close, so we'll be picking up those students with other Concord Middle School students. So we would not be putting two students on a bus. One thing that you do need to understand is when we talk about a level, you could be committing, if you said, we do have a sixth grader that's currently at Concord Middle, so then you would be committing, if you gave them transportation for the next 5 to 6 years out for that one student. So that's the reason why, as a district, we choose to do levels and then let parents still apply for the hardship and go from there.
So if we're telling them that they only have transportation until they finish that level, then you made it sound like they just apply for the hardship and the transportation goes right along with it, but that's not what is the case, correct?
That is correct. It is not. Once they're finished with that level, as Ms. Furtbaugh spoke earlier, that transportation will no longer be provided.
Okay.
Yeah, and then they would have to, if they are requesting transportation, file a hardship that is not automatically approved. It will be reviewed based on what the hardship is, and transportation could be provided based on that consideration. Is that right or no?
I think in any scenario, per the board's direction, we're going to be able to provide transportation. We're only talking a couple of miles, and there's already buses that are out there.
So that's different than what we're saying here.
Well, but I think we want to have that hardship filing so that we know what's happening every year. We're not going to, as Ms. Reimer just said, we're not going to make this a 6-year plan or longer for that transportation.
It's your direction.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's
historically,
at the direction of future boards.
Correct.
Yep, which is always the case. But if we think a decision is right to make now, then let's go ahead and make it and be done with it. And then it puts the onus on the future boards to go back and change the policy, not putting the onus or the responsibility on the parent to come in and fight a policy that we put in place because they have to come back and file a hardship just to get transportation for, like you said, a couple of miles. So I think I would like to put some language in there that encourages flexibility in providing transportation from the board.
well, I just want to clarify though, with the shifting off of Old Salisbury Concord Road, when we thought we were taking the right side of Old Salisbury Concord Road, buses would be on the common road. There will not be buses on Old Sap Road now, right?
In terms of those specifics, last week when we had a meeting, I asked for the specific scenarios to review, and I can't answer that without having the specific. I can come back to you.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is, we will do what the board directs us. If the board says, can you provide transportation, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say it's going to cost $200,000 the way I just did at Wolf Meadow. We're talking a minimal distance. But what I can tell you is, if the board says, draw the lines and hold to it, then we'll hold to it. Does that make sense? I'm a little bit confused, but I need the specific scenarios and I can get back to you.
Madam Chair, can I make a motion and ask for a second on option 1 as stated so that we can
move that along?
have a discussion on that? And I just want to make a general point, and y'all have alluded to it many ways in the last few moments, that this is a temporary action and decision on the part of the board. I don't feel comfortable with the word permanent, because so many things could change in years in the future. I just want the public and the communities to understand the need.
I would suggest we not use the word temporary,
Yeah, what do you mean
but just
temporary?
say
Because
we are.
you're changing a line.
Yeah.
But this is not-
We are doing a reassignment.
That's fine, but
It's done.
And I second the
I'll
motion.
second that, but I'm not saying it's temporary, it's done right now, it's done. Another board can undo it, but it's done right now.
Option 1.
Option 1, Mr. Harrison.
And it's done.
Ms. Carpenter. All in favor of the motion to approve option 1 and
Are we still
and
discuss,
continue our
are we still
discussion?
discuss? Can we still have
if we
discussion?
need any more discussion.
Yeah, we need some discussion.
Okay, any more discussion on option 1? This is not for the other parts. We're going to break this into motions. This is just for choosing option 1 over option 2. And then we'll go to the next document.
So we're discussing.
Option 1.
Option 1, just any discussion?
Okay.
Any discussion on
Yes,
option 1?
I'd like,
Mr. Shoemaker?
I am only for the movement of the elementary school students on this one. We've got another item on our agenda that's going to deal with looking at all of our feeder routes for all of our high schools and middle schools, and we're going to be exercising that this year, and it's going to be large and odorous. I think that right now you're talking about 12 Concord High School students and 10 CMS students in the area that we're talking about, based on the information that you provided to us.
Yeah, it's not
it
even
12 or
12,
is
it's
it
20, it's 24 total with 4
No,
seniors.
it's 12 Concord High students, because I just counted it, and then 10 CMS students, based on this piece of paper that you sent to me on January the 6th.
Yeah,
And
except
then I've got 16 that are going to Royal Oaks.
Yeah, that was actually, some of that area was removed. So all of those streets from
No,
that paper
I
are not
only did the
included.
streets that were valid. I looked them all up on the map and just did the streets that were valid.
It wasn't
Teakwood,
that high.
Teakwood, Sap Road, Irish Potato Road were the streets that were involved, all the rest were not. And Gregory Road. So I counted those roads, the others are involved on the other portion of the map. So I went and looked up Whiting Road and Heritage Oaks and Blair, and those are over there off of the old Concord, Salisbury Concord Road. So-
Those roads aren't even mentioned on here.
No, they're not, because
No,
they're not
they're
in my
not in
count.
scope.
I was saying what is in the scope is 16 Mount Pleasant, or 16 students for elementary, 12 students for Concord High School, and 10 students for Concord Middle School. I'm saying that we should just deal with the students in the elementary school, so I'm not going to vote for option 1.
Yeah, when we counted these, we did not come up with that high of a number.
It is what it is. I mean, just count
I know,
the
I
number.
think there might be, I don't know what,
I think we have some confusion
An extra count.
on numbers here.
okay, so I need to find that document.
You just said,
16.
excuse me. Ms. Reimer, you just said there was only 4 middle school students.
19. Actually, it's 19.
Y'all have the areas, we have several areas there. I think
19.
Mr. Shoemaker has a larger area that were the students before we moved further east.
The roads that I looked at were Gregory Road, Teakwood Road, Sap Road, and those were the roads. And those are the roads that contained a little over 16 students. I think it's 18 students total for Royal Oaks. Now, what you do show, let's see, on Gregory Road, you had 2 students on Gregory. If you want me to go ahead and go through the list. You had 2 students on Gregory. You had 4 students on Teakwood. And you had,
While you're doing
12
math.
students on Sap Road. That's elementary students. But that's where I am on option 1. I'm not going to vote for option 1. Because I think
So you want 5th graders, when they finish up in Mount Pleasant Elementary, to have to go back to Concord Middle School? That's what you're voting for, correct, Mr. Shoemaker?
Yes, sir.
And just to continue the conversation, the suggestion of option 1, from my perspective, simply gives the parents and the communities stability and lets them make longer-term plans that are just done, but understood for that period of time, as opposed to parsing it out in shorter one-year periods of time. But I think the families would appreciate the ability to make those plans with option 1.
Okay. I guess question for Dr. Louder. So we have up to 17 high school students or something to that effect. Does that change the allocations to the schools? Or could that change the allocation to schools, or how does that affect?
I mean, theoretically, it could. It depends on what the number was before you add the 17 to them, but not any kind of major circumstance. In other words, they'll have an amount of students, they'll get a certain amount of teachers for that. So will that be anything that would cause a problem? No, I don't think so. Not in teacher allotments.
And one of the reasons that personally I would want to go with 1 is, again, I don't feel we're going to have to go that far out. I can be wrong. I have been wrong before, and I am a woman, and I'll admit I've been wrong before. But hey, and this is on TV. I stated it before, and I'll state it again. The children that we're referring to now have been shuffled around, and I want to try to give some stability. They've been in place for 2 years, and again, I'd like for them to know they've got a home and that we're going to keep them in that home. And if we can say we're going to do it from now until they graduate, that'd be great. But we're not going to I mean, you never, as somebody said earlier, we know we're going to have some shifting around, but at least we're saying tonight, we want to say we're going to try to keep you where you're at. But we got a rural county, we've got a rural area, it's a farming area, and we all know that Mount Pleasant has been known for that. And Concord's not known for that. That's not where Concord's a spider. Mount Pleasant's a tractor. We all know that. But I think that this first proposal does that, and we're saying that we want to put it all the way through, go from the elementary through the high school. And I think that first proposal does that.
One more question. Do we know how long this area has been in Concord High Schools District? Or Concord? So it's been Concord since 1983,
That was since the city-county merger?
and we have families now that want to go to Mount Pleasant, and they've been going to, I mean, choice is important to me. I mean, I think that's having that option, but I'm a little confused on if you've been in Concord for this period of time, why changing, but, okay.
I think it's really a community identification of whether you're coming into the city or whether you're going to a school that is considered more rural. Comments, gentlemen? Dr. Kurt?
I'd like to call for a question, Madam Chair.
Okay, ready for the question? Take a motion regarding which option
I think you already have option.
to approve. So option one was on the table?
Option one
Okay.
has been approved as a motion.
So I have option one. Mr. Harrison made the motion. Ms. Carpenter made this second. All in favor of option one, say aye. Aye. So
So are we now voting on the transportation
On
course
option
piece?
one.
Is that the next step?
no, we're voting on option one
But do we?
first.
And then
Let's-
we will talk
A
about-
motion, yes, but I need to see clearly who was for option one. Mr. Walter, Ms. Carpenter, myself, Mr. Harrison, and Dr. Kirk. Okay, so that's 5-4. Option one. And Mr. Powell against, or you for?
I'm for option one.
Okay, very good, thank you.
And I'm dissent.
Okay, and Mr. Shoemaker has cast a dissenting vote. Okay. So the motion passes 6-1 for option one. Okay, next we need to look at, let me get back to my agenda here, looking at the proposed governing elements. I'm just going to go down through these. So with number one, any concern with starting it next year?
What happens to the children now? They stay where they are?
Yeah, for this school year.
Okay.
Till the end of school year 2017-18. Any concerns with option, or number two on the governing elements? Program choice remains the same. Okay, 3A. Students in the redistricting area may return to Royal Oaks or stay at Concord Middle or Concord High School with the following criteria. Criteria A, transportation will be provided by Cabarrus County Schools buses to the schools listed, which is Royal Oaks, Concord Middle, Concord High School, until the end of the current elementary school, middle school, or high school attendance respectively.
I think I'd like to change that
Okay?
to transportation will be provided by CCS buses through the schools listed on number 3 until current families do not have students in CCS schools.
How about if we say until current families no longer request transportation?
Absolutely.
Board members, are you okay with that option?
Can you track that?
Well, they would still need to file, they would still need to
I mean-
file the option paperwork, the hardship paperwork.
You can track it, but.
Yes,
it's
we're
just the
already
current-
tracking
It's the
it.
current pipeline of students and families. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that would imply to strike letter B. Is that what you all are requesting?
Mm-hmm.
This end? Okay, letter C. The family must file a hardship request with CCS Student Services each year that they request to be at the original and now out-of-district school. These requests will document the intention of the student's family and be automatically approved. Okay, we still need to have some record of where students are going when they're not in district at that address. Is that correct?
Keep C.
Yeah, but they're still getting their transportation because we said it in the first one. So they're getting their transportation, but we just need to know where they're at. So that's all they're doing, that paperwork, so they know where they're at. But we've already said they're gonna get their transportation. So they're getting their bus, so that's gonna account for these people that were put into that situation. So
Okay.
we're getting their transportation.
And on the hardship request, that's where they would need to request transportation.
So approximately what time of the year do each of these families, every year, need to fill out this paperwork? What's the window or the time?
March through May.
March through May. So it's, the onus is upon those parents, March through May, to fill out this paperwork, for it to be reviewed during the summer, for it to be approved automatically per this statement. However, if a parent fails to do the paperwork, then, well, I mean, to be honest about it, it's up to the parents to fill out the paperwork between March and May.
Right.
Is that understood?
Yeah, and all parents for all bus transportation are required to submit the request for transportation. So there's two elements there, one to stay at the original school, and two to request bus transportation.
Again-
Those have to be done in a timely manner. They are not guaranteed by us, our vote tonight. So
And if
both
a-
of those would have to be
And if a
completed.
parent neglects to fill out the paperwork,
Right, this is null and void, so.
null and void.
All right, all right. Per se, all right. These parents next year are going to, say their child's going to Concord next year. They're living in this area we're talking about. Is it March through May of this year, this
Yes.
coming March?
Yes.
That these people have to go to your office to fill out this paperwork. I want them to know that they got to do it from March to May this year to do that.
It'll be online through Mr. Basilisk's office.
Through John's office, that they've got to fill out this paperwork this coming March.
Always
That they-
at the end of the school year preceding what you desire to do next year.
So,
So just like program choice is all done in the springtime, and the assignments made, bus transportation is requested this spring, just normal procedure for schools.
okay, so, but they need to do it this March, this coming up March.
And that's
Okay.
just purely by state law. We've got to track every child and know where every child is.
Exactly.
That's the only purpose of that.
Okay. So board members, if you understand these, I will go into the original document and send you out as part of the minutes with these modifications. I think I've captured them. Number 4 on the governing elements. Everybody in agreement on that one? That this is, new students moving into the area may not select to go to the old school with transportation. They are districted at the new school.
Could we change that to families? In case
Families?
there's a student out there that's got a sibling already involved in this, they just go right along with them.
Let's see. So these government are for currently enrolled students and unenrolled sibling. Except that if that sibling extends the time period. So let's say somebody has sent their children to a private school for the first through grade 5. And we see this where students come back to the public school at middle school or high school. So if they've sent to the private
Or they
school.
adopted a child.
I think adoption is a different thing, but we still extend. I think we need to have some knowledge of the numbers that they have to start dwindling down, so this is not a lifetime commitment. And I think in
I'm
those
okay
cases.
with it being a
if-
lifetime commitment.
I think in those cases, it becomes a hardship request, that my child is already at this school, and it's a year-by-year decision. Huh? You're fine with 4? Everyone else? Okay. So with the modifications expressed, removing item 3B, modifying 3A, and adding a clarification that the hardship request and bus transportation request will follow the normal schedules for the district. I'll take a motion to approve the Royal Oaks Elementary to Mount Pleasant reassignment governing elements.
Second.
Mr. Harrison. We'll keep that simple, the same motions. And Mrs. Carpenter. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 6-0. 7-0, I'm sorry, I'm so used to the 6. Dr. Kirk, I'm forgetting. We have someone in that seat. I see you there.
He's there. I see him. I see him.
I did the pledge. I mean, you know, come on.
But to the Mount Pleasant area folks, regardless of whether you choose to go to the Mount Pleasant Elementary or to stay at Concord Schools, we hope that you know that we heard you, and your students can go now as the parents desire. So. Okay, so we're all done with that one, right? We covered it all? Okay. The next item on the agenda, 9.04. The approval to hire the demographics firm for redistricting for both the new high school and the new elementary school. Any questions for Ms. Reimer?
Can you get any better price?
I'm sorry.
Can you get any better price?
This is a big task.
It is a tremendous task, and this is the best price compared to the other person that submitted theirs. This is the lower quote, even though better product.
Wasn't the original price a few weeks ago or last week 170 something?
No, sir, not to exceed 150,000. It was 138 and a little bit,
so
but not to
that's-
exceed 150,000 based on whatever else the board may need them to do.
So 150.
Yeah, not to exceed that amount, but a little less than that.
Thank you.
I'll always ask.
So I have a question. This firm will perform a study on our county and our district for all the high schools, all the students attending high school get the data and information. They will perform some type of public charrettes or something like that where they'll go to the public and talk about or first get an understanding of our district. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, they'll do a study, a complete study of the district, elementary, middle, and high.
And so
And
how
they'll
will
start
they?
with realignment with elementary, try to align to middle, and then align to high.
All right, and then how will they solicit their teams and will you guys be involved with helping them to solicit public members to participate? How will that all be handled in this?
Okay.
And that's all a part of their scope,
Yes, sir.
I'm assuming.
Yes, sir. So they typically do a application process for those members of the community that would like to be involved. We are part of that. Just if we would like to be involved, we can also submit an application, but that group fully runs that application process. We'll run that group by the board, obviously when it's picked. A committee sometimes between 25 and 30 members. Staff, principals, those members of our staff typically are for advisory roles versus part of the committee.
So they will be soliciting some type of application. You'll use some type of communication process that you have in our system to make sure that all parents are aware and get
Yes,
the
sir.
opportunity to participate.
Yes. They have done it several different ways, but the suggestion from them is to allow them to pick through the application process, the committee. In other districts, some boards have chosen to pick the members themselves. And in that district specifically, I spoke to the person, they said that was a mistake. So that if they gave us any advice, it would be they do a fantastic job and to allow them to run the application process to pick the committee.
Now, do they have, I didn't see it in here, but is there some type of a schedule for providing all of this and getting this wrapped up? And what is your due date for the schedule?
Yeah, schedule's on the, this is their schedule is on the back page of their proposal. In speaking with them, it is very flexible based on what the board's needs are. We've discussed several different needs based on timing of the year and just historic kind of things that Cabarrus County has done with redistricting. They said they would be happy to sit down with us and see what we could do based on what the recommendation or request of the board would be as far as the timeline. So if you can see that top, it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I see it now. So it looks like their work will not be completed until sometime in February of next year, which will be after our strategic planning meeting. Will there be some type of issuance before that?
Yes, so they'll have many different opportunities for the board to be involved in looking at what they are presenting to the public, and again, are very open to changing the schedule around. They'll just need to know and sit down and say, what is the board's wishes there, and can we compact the schedule enough? And I think they were very confident that they could. So it could be, I mean, this is not set in stone, this is just a suggestion from them, but.
Right, but so based on this, it looks like we wouldn't offer up a comprehensive redistricting plan to our constituents until sometime around spring.
February
where we
would be the
begin
final presentation, yes.
to debate that as a board in March-ish.
Yes,
Spring of 2019, and then we would have to arrive at a decision by May or June of 2019.
Yeah, so if the board so wishes to do it, yeah, so.
Oh, I know, but I'm
I mean,
just trying to
typically,
get-
we would
understand.
ourselves as a district ask sometime, as we did this time, December, January, and so that would probably be the request, if that's the request of the board.
I
We would
personally-
prefer for high school people to be more involved in the process of getting to know that high school and setting stuff, so I don't think that's an issue.
I personally think we need to be in serious discussions on the district as a board in January.
Okay.
If that can be accomplished. And I also asked, and I don't know if this will make sense, but if we know there is a definite inside the circle, especially for the high school, because they have a lot of planning to do, and class selection and whatnot, that because the high schools are going to be scheduling students come February into the other high schools, their original high schools where they are today. So if you will define what that inner circle is, knowing that we just don't know what the sections on the outside of the circle is, for example, for the new high school, I think that would be helpful. So we know Laurel Park, we know Sheffield Manor's across the street. You know, we know a couple of those, and how far out does it stretch that the demographers come up with and say, we know it's going to be this tight of a circle. We just don't know whether we're going to stretch out here yet. That may be helpful, at least to the guidance counselors at the existing high schools, and give us some ability to start planning, whether that be buses, whoever the principal will be, do planning at the school, that sort of thing. So.
Yes, ma'am. I do think that's possible.
Because, as she mentioned, sometimes to even bring some of those students in to form a committee with the principals and stuff to say, hey, let's talk about mascots, let's talk about things, so they can kind of, get a feel for those type things, because a lot of times they do like to try to get some of the students involved earlier on in the process, because I know they like to try to get those things picked as soon as they can.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think we have to wait for the full redistricting, so all the students who would be going to the new high school have a choice or chance, but they could certainly do exploratory committees and do some groundwork.
Well, I see that we're looking at December for another public information session, number 3. If you look down at the bottom, that's not a good month. That's like, forget that. You're not going to get a whole lot of activity, because it's just too much going on in our lives and in the schools' lives. So I'm kind of looking at that as they may need to compress that to November, because in order to meet the schedule that Ms. Furtenbaugh is referring to, we really need to have done all of that before Thanksgiving, and then as a board begin to convene and talk about it in December, January timeframe, so that we can, our final option would be in our strategic planning meeting or retreat.
Sure.
So
To wrap this up for a February decision.
Absolutely. And again, I think this was just a recommended process and timeline. I've spoken to him multiple times about different situations within Cabarrus County. they're very comfortable, so we would just need the direction of the board. I don't think anything you've asked is unreasonable at all.
Well, and then the first public information session is going to be in June of this year. I think, again, we got a problem. We don't need to have it in June because everybody says you're doing cover-up, you're not, that's a bad time of year, so.
I think we will be doing the process consistently throughout. I think we start ASAP as soon as you all vote 7-0 for this tonight, and then we will move forward quickly and get direction from you guys, and then make sure that we're communicating along the way. I could possibly do as many weekly wrap-up information sessions as you need.
Dr. Reimer, may I, Madam Chair? Thank you.
Certainly, if you would like to read, if you're going to make the motion?
Well, just a
Okay.
clarification. Last week, we were basically saying current staff resources are really stretched thin as it is, and for the efficiency of the staff, this should be worked out through a private agency, this demographic group that we're looking at here. Can you help me understand how much staff involvement will be necessary with this group in order to facilitate their needs? I'm trying to ask very generally how much guidance and help from staff will be involved if we go with this group.
Okay. I think it's imperative that people such as Robert Klutz and Tim Louder and Joe Gomez are involved in the process, and as they're looking at different maps and certain boundaries and stuff, that they certainly have input into saying that's not really a natural boundary, or this is, such as Mr. Klutz said earlier, they've been there since 1983, some historical data. I think staff will be a big part in trying to feed some of that information to the committee as far as just historical data and knowing what we're doing, as well as possible numbers with program choice and some of those things that we'll have to continually feed them. But we won't be running that process. They will be running that process completely. So we will try to provide information as much as possible. And then obviously my role will be getting as much information to you as quickly as possible.
So you seem to be saying that the staff involvement will be in data collection and verification and not in decisioning.
Correct.
Or even mid-level decisioning along the way, which will be a better use of staff time.
Correct. Yes, and your question yes, and your question last week was about the criteria and all that, so we did do a little research into that, and criteria is not weighted, they're all the same, and they typically, unless the board were to ask for something different.
And this way, staff is doing what staff does well.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Walter?
Who's got the computer? Can you bring up the high school boundary map from our website, please?
On the website, our school website.
So primarily what we need to know where the school kids or where the students are going to go for the new high school. Is that our primary purpose?
No, sir,
with
we
this?
need to know where our kids are going to go for elementary school with the new Southwest and how they're going to feed into our new middle schools, including increasing J and Freeze, as well as them being a feeder into the high schools. So we need
But
all three of those.
We won't have a middle school feeder at this point.
No, but we do have to, we did say we would be increasing and using J and Freeze as trying to align our middle and high. So we will need elementary aligned to middle, then aligned to high school.
But for most the public wants to know where their kids are going to go to the school, who goes to the new school, I would think. So
As well as who is going to go to the new school, and as well as we will be shifting. So we're not just going to be moving kids into the new school. It looks as if we would have to also shift from school to school,
right.
rather than just into the new
So if we
school.
look at the map, can somebody put an arrow of where the new school is going to be? Is that on there somewhere?
Weddington Road.
Yeah, it's
I think it's a little to your left and a little
kind of the
down.
Somewhere in
yellowish.
Right there.
Weddington
So
Road.
there. $150,000 I think is too much to spend for this. If you look at where the school is, it's right there, it's either yellow or blue. You're going to have to take students from both the yellow and the blue, and then over there, you've got a little bit of the pink, which is Concord High School, and that's a board decision. Are we going to include Concord High School in this redistricting or not? So that's not a consultant decision. I mean, that's going to be us to make those tough choices. But anyway, if you feel it seems pretty clear what area will fill that new school. If you need to get, 1,600 kids in the school, and you're going to take half from, or a portion from Robinson, or a portion for Northwest, then you're going to have to fill in those spots like you just mentioned.
Yeah. Mr. Walter, just as clarification, what Ms. Reimer was alluding to is that this new high school is meant to relieve overcrowding as well. So we have Central Cabarrus that has overcrowding, and so we're not going to have an immediate high school to relieve them. It will be several more years.
That is correct. If you look at that, if you move kids out of Robinson, you've got to fill them with somebody.
Right, so
you
it's a
have you have overcrowding. If you look which areas are closest to the Robinson district, those folks have a pretty good chance of ending up going to Robinson to fill that in. I mean, this is not as complicated as we're making it out to be. I just don't think that we need to spend $150,000 of funds to have an outside firm come in and tell us the same thing that we can pretty much determine with a little thought and a little bit of time. Because really, they need to know now. I mean, the students that are going to these schools really should have a pretty good idea that they're going to at this point. When we're waiting another year before we're going to tell them, I don't think that's going to go over real well. So anyway, that's my my thought is I think we can do this for less than $150,000. Granted, we have experts. Granted, we're going to have pretty maps, but the expense is too much for my taste.
Yeah, Madam Chair, if I may, I think a significant point is these aren't static pieces of data. If it was static and given infinite amount of time, a finite amount of time, I think Ms. Reimer addressed, you got the brain power to do it, but you don't have enough calendar days in a year, and we don't pay you to do moving pieces around. I think the unknown here is the dynamic environment in which we're dealing with having a PhD in demography. The demographer is huge. It is almost bordering on magic besides science and art. And I think what they're bringing to the table is significantly more than anybody in this room can possibly bring to the equation. So I like what they're bringing to the table above and beyond what our staff can do.
And this also includes the new elementary school redistricting as well, and trying to align feeder districts when possible.
Yes, ma'am. NJ and Freeze.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we accept the offer here, or the offer for us to enter into a contract with Cropper McKibben not to exceed $150,000. I believe that by approving this, that we'll give our staff an extra 4,000 to 6,000 hours worth of work that will be augment what they do already, and to meet with the community to put together the information required. And because this is a temporary thing, it's not like we have to hire permanent staff to do this, but we would have to hire permanent staff if we didn't go this route to try to augment their needs to do this study.
Second motion.
Dr. Kirk? Any further discussion?
And we did specify was for the high schools, the middle school, excuse me. It is specified it's for the high school, the elementary, and the middle school. It is specified within the contract, or we haven't got the contract yet.
So it is specified within the proposal, and our attorney has worked on a possible contract.
Okay, any other comments?
So right now, we won't see the contract until, so right now, this is just the beginning of the contract conversation.
So I'll defer to Mr. Shaw.
We still have to enter into a contract.
No, it's much easier than I'll let him speak.
One proposal was just to have signatures on the proposal, and I like a separate contract form, but it is very simple. It is Board of Education and Cropper McKibben enter into a contract to provide these services as outlined in the request, or outlined in their proposal, our request, and the standard Cabarrus terms and conditions. It's a half-page contract.
So there's no additional terms in there besides the proposal terms?
That's correct, other than the standard Cabarrus County terms, which is a one-page document that we throw on every document. And I think Cropper said today that was fine. So there is a separate contract form, but it's nothing for the board that the board needed to worry about. It's a half page that just incorporates the three different documents in one.
Okay, board members?
I definitely cannot support spending the money for another consultant to come in and give us, information that I feel like we can collect and process in-house. I don't think that the difficult part is kind of deciding which streets. I think the difficult part is dealing with the people involved and all of those types of things. And I was a little disappointed to hear that some of the community meetings, I hope it's some, it wasn't said some, but it was said community meetings, was part of this scope. And, I don't feel comfortable with an outside demographic firm managing that community outreach piece. Although I wasn't real, impressed, I guess, with how the parents were treated at Royal Oaks as well. But anyway, it just seems like it's an awful lot of money, and I think we have the people in place. If we can just maybe forego some of our other meetings and processes that take people away for large chunks of time, I think we would be able to spend those man hours performing this task.
Any other comments?
Again, I want to make sure that if this is approved, that a statement of work, objectives, and scope of services is attached to it, because I want to make sure if I have to go back and say, you didn't do that, they can't say, what didn't I do? If it's not attached, because it basically says what we are asking for and what we want. So I want to have something I can point to and say, you didn't do this, or you said you were going to do this, and I want to make sure that I have what they're supposed to be doing.
I believe, Mr. Shaw, you said that the entire proposal would be attached and referred to?
Right, the proposal for demographic realignment services is basically attachment A.
Okay.
The Board of Education's request for proposals is attachment B, and the one-page standard terms and conditions is attachment C to a short one-half-page contract.
So this proposal will not be amended in any way to be attached to the signature page?
That's right.
It will be, the signature page will refer to each of those attachments, and this will be included in its entirety.
And so if you ask what the scope is, it's this. And if there's anything else as part of the RFP, but I don't think there is. I think this is responsive to the RFP.
Mr. Harrison?
Along the comments of Ms. Carpenter, will the contract and all the paperwork include explicit exclusions of what will not be done, so that we, again, have a clear understanding that certain items will be included and addressed, but other items would not be addressed?
I think the scope is fairly well defined.
Is it appropriate to have explicit exclusions?
And I would just say, if we add anything other than this attachment and the scope and this contractual language, we have to come back to another meeting. So I don't think we want to, unless there's a really strong reason, I don't think we want to modify that at this time. Mr.
Did we talk about where we're getting the money to pay for this study? Is it, we're going to have to wait for our budget adjustment, or we already have a plan, or how's that?
Yeah, I think Ms.
What
Klutz
are we
has-
giving? What are we giving up to do this? Because I don't think it was a budgeted item.
We do have a plan. We have talked with the county staff, and they have indicated that they would support this option. So when we adopted our budget, we had an X number, and just can't remember right off the top of my head, of our charter schools that were funded from the local side. So our charter schools on the state side is different than our charter schools on the local side. So last year, we had more charter schools on the local side than we did this year. So the county could either take that money back, or they could let us apply it to a project. We asked them if it would be appropriate to apply to this project. It just so happened that the amount was $150,000. They said we would be okay with that as long as it's not to exceed $150,000. Anything beyond that, you would need to find on your own. And so that's why the contract reads not to exceed $150,000.
So we're not taking money from any other funds. We're repurposing with the county's permission.
We're actually, this is in celebration of getting our kids back from charter schools.
Yeah.
I'd call a question.
We have the motion made by Mr. Shoemaker, seconded by Dr. Kirk. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. So the vote is 5-2 with Mr. Powell and Mr. Walter dissenting. Okay, and the last item on our action agenda, 9.05, regarding the, our board approving to request funding for additional mobile units based on the class size legislation. We reviewed this in the work session. Are there any further questions today?
This is a not to exceed 5.4 million? Or is this, I kind of got the feeling that it was an estimate.
It's
but
a worst-case scenario.
It's the worst case, so we
Yeah.
wouldn't exceed this
So
amount.
exactly, it would definitely not exceed that. It's a worst-case scenario.
Okay,
And that's what the county asked for, worst case scenario.
right. That's why I just want to make sure that, because it just says 5.4 million, and I got this feeling that there was a lot of give and take in here, possibly. Okay, thank you.
This is not a request. This is not a request in any way for the teachers. It's purely for the,
That's exactly
The
right. This
mobile
is
classrooms.
just the classroom
and
space.
so the teacher need will be addressed separately.
We hope the teacher need will be addressed at the state level.
Well, yes, we all do. But barring that remote possibility.
But it is also in our budget process, our budget committee process for
Okay,
the teachers.
okay, great. To call that particular need out during the
Yes.
upcoming budget process. Please express our thanks to the county for understanding the situation we are in, and my gratitude, if nothing else,
We certainly
for them working with us under these circumstances.
Yes, they have been wonderful.
They
We all
sure
appreciate it.
have.
So
Do I have a motion to
I
approve?
was just going to say, I'll make a motion that we approve the request to the county for additional mobile units in the amount of not to exceed $5.4 million.
Second.
Okay, we need to amend that or change that motion.
Well, you
Just
you
recapture
can
it.
just say amount of 5.4 million.
Okay.
That's good.
Mr. Harrison, you seconded? Yes, ma'am. All in, any further discussion?
I think we could be doing a lot better with a $5 million somewhere else, so I'm not in favor of this.
We don't have a choice.
We need to send a statement.
Okay, we can't turn away students at our doors. We don't have that option. All in favor, say aye.
Well, wait a minute, I'm doing it under duress, can I say that? I mean, really, this is, we are being extorted, yeah, that's the word. I mean, it really is, I mean, we are really, we need help.
stand up for it.
I'm with Rob on this. I mean, this is not even have the teacher's part in it, and we are being forced to do this, and we're not getting help from anyone, and it's falling on our back, and I mean, on the taxpayers' backs, and it really is unfair.
And worse yet, it is all at one time as opposed to incrementally something that the county could adjust for over several budget cycles.
Unfortunately, I think representatives in Raleigh do not always enact legislation that is appropriate for growth districts. Sometimes, smaller districts, low growth or no growth, may be able to handle it within their existing structures. We can't do that. So-
And what really, I don't know if it's fully understood, because they, on the surface, it sounds really good. You're going to lower the class size in kindergarten, first and second grade, and then it's going to increase the upper grades. You're going to maybe get 30, 35 in those upper grades. And I feel so sorry for those teachers. I've been in classrooms that's got those large numbers in it, and it's chaotic sometimes. And I have to sympathize with those teachers. And so, you know, they're creating problems. And so it's really bad.
Unfortunately, I think a no vote would only complicate the relationship with the commissioners and not really send a statement to Raleigh. So all in favor of the motion to request funding for additional mobile units, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Mr. Walter
I'll say nay.
and Mr. Powell? And you're saying nay?
Okay. It's wrong. It's wrong to do that.
Okay, so the motion passes 4-3 with Ms. Carpenter, Mr. Walter, and Mr. Powell dissenting. And we didn't really plan that, but actually it's kind of a message, so.
It's a message. This is a message.
Okay, we've come to the end of our open session agenda. I'll take a motion that the board convene in closed session pursuant to General Statute 318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to General Statute 143-318-11A6, to consider the qualifications, competence, performance, character, fitness, conditions of appointment, or conditions of initial employment of an individual public officer or employee or prospective public officer or employee, or to hear or investigate a complaint, charge, or grievance by or against an individual public officer or employee, to review personnel recommendations.
I'll make that motion as you just stated it.
And I'll
Mr.
second
Walter
that
made the motion, Ms. Carpenter seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes 7-0. Thank you for joining us this evening, whether you're in the room or watching on TV. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.